competition, but only to see to it that it takes forms which are not too injurious. Primitive competition was a conflict as to which should murder the other man and his wife and children. Modern competition, in the shape of war, still takes this form. But in sport, in literary and artistic rivalry, and in constitutional politics, it takes forms which do very little harm, and yet offer a fairly adequate outlet for our combative instincts. What is wrong in this respect is not that such forms of competition are bad, but that they form too small a part of the lives of ordinary men and women. Apart from war, modern civilization is aimed increasingly at security, but I am not sure that the elimination of all danger makes for happiness. I should like at this point to quote a passage from Sir Arthur Keith's new theory of human evolution. And this is a quotation. Those who have visited the peoples living under a reign of wild justice bring back accounts of happiness among natives living under such conditions. Friar Stark, for example, reported thus of South Arabia. When I came to travel in that part of the country where security is non-existent, I found a people, though full of lament over their life of perpetual blackmail and robbery, yet just as cheerful and as full of the ordinary joy of living as anywhere on earth. Dr. H.K. Fry had a similar experience among the Aborigines of Australia. A native in his wild state, he reports, lives in constant danger. Hostile spirits are about him constantly. Yet he is light-hearted and cheerful, indulgent to his children, and kind to his aged parents. My third illustration is taken from the Crow Indians of America, who have been living under the eye of Dr. R. Lowry for many years. They are now living in the security of a reserve. Ask a Crow, reports Dr. Lowry, whether he would have security as now, or danger as of old, and his answer is, danger as of old, there was glory in it. I am assuming that the wild conditions of life I have been describing were those amid which mankind lived through the whole of the primal period of its evolution. It was amid such conditions that man's nature and character were fashioned, one of the conditions being the practice of blood revenge. That is the end of the quotation from Sir Arthur Keith. Such effects of human psychology account for some things which, for me at least, were surprising when, in 1914, I first became aware of them. Many people are happier during a war than they are in peacetime, provided the direct suffering entailed by the fighting does not fall too heavily upon them personally. A quiet life may well be a boring life. The unadventurous existence of a well-behaved citizen, engaged in earning a moderate living in a humble capacity, leaves completely unsatisfied all that part of his nature which, if he had lived 400,000 years ago, would have found ample scope in the search for food, in cutting off the heads of enemies, and in escaping the attentions of tigers. When war comes, the bank clerk may escape and become a commando, and then at last he feels that he is living as nature intended him to live. But unfortunately, science has put into our hands such enormously powerful means of satisfying our destructive instincts, that to allow them free play no longer serves any evolutionary purpose, as it did while men were divided into petty tribes. The problem of making peace with our anarchic impulses is one which has been too little studied, but one which becomes more and more imperative as scientific technique advances. From the purely biological point of view, it is unfortunate that the destructive side of technique has advanced so very much more rapidly than the creative side. In one moment, a man may kill 500,000 people, but he cannot have children any quicker now than in the days of our savage ancestors. If a man could have 500,000 children as quickly as by an atomic bomb he can destroy 500,000 enemies, we might, at the cost of enormous suffering, leave the biological problem to the struggle for existence and the survival of the fittest. But in the modern world, the old mechanism of evolution can no longer be relied upon. The problem of the social reformer, therefore, is not merely to seek means of security. For if those means, when found, provide no deep satisfaction, the security will be thrown away for the glory of adventure. The problem is rather to combine that degree of security which is essential to the species with forms of adventure and danger and contest which are compatible with the civilized way of life. And in attempting to solve this problem, we must remember always that although our manner of life and our institutions and our knowledge have undergone profound changes, our instincts, both for good and evil, remain very much what they were when our ancestors' brains first grew to their present size. I do not think that the reconciliation of primitive impulses with the civilized way of life is impossible, but I do not think it can be achieved by exclusive emphasis upon either side. A life without adventure is likely to be unsatisfying, but a life in which adventure is allowed to take whatever form it will is sure to be short. I think perhaps the essence of the matter was given by the Red Indian, whom I quoted a moment ago, who regretted the old life because there was glory in it. Every energetic person wants something that can count as glory. There are those who get it: film stars, famous athletes, military commanders, and even some few politicians. But they are a small minority, and the rest are left to daydreams. Daydreams of the cinema, daydreams of Wild West adventure stories, purely private daydreams of imaginary power. I am not one of those who think daydreams wholly evil. They are an essential part of the life of imagination. But when, throughout a long life, there is no means of relating them to reality, they easily become unwholesome and even dangerous to sanity. Perhaps it may still be possible, even in our mechanical world, to find some real outlet for the impulses which are now confined to the realm of fantasy. In the interests of stability, it is much to be hoped that this may be possible, for if it is not, destructive philosophies will from time to time sweep away the best of human achievements. If this is to be prevented, the savage in each one of us must find some outlet not incompatible with civilized life and with the happiness of his equally savage neighbor.
That was Bertrand Russell giving the first of 6 broadcasts on authority and the individual. This series constitutes the first of the annual Reith lectures presented by the BBC.
Track 2.
The Reith Lectures. Bertrand Russell is giving the second of 6 broadcasts on authority and the individual. His second lecture is entitled Social Cohesion and Government. Bertrand Russell.
The original mechanism of social cohesion, as it is still to be found among the most primitive races, was one which operated through individual psychology, without the need of anything that could be called government. There were, no doubt, tribal customs which all had to obey, but one must suppose that there was no impulse to disobedience of these customs, and no need of magistrates or policemen to enforce them. In old Stone Age times, so far as authority was concerned, the tribe lived in a state which we should now describe as anarchy. But it differed from what anarchy would be in a modern community, owing to the fact that social impulses sufficiently controlled the acts of individuals. Men of the new Stone Age were already quite different. They had government, authorities capable of exacting obedience, and large-scale enforced cooperation. This is evident from their works. The primitive type of small tribe cohesion could not have produced Stonehenge, still less the pyramids. The enlargement of the social unit must have been mainly the result